Hello. The purpose of this video and the future subsequent videos will be to train on the TMS and to explain what the TMS is all about. Now, when we say TMS, it stands for Transportation Management System, and it is a system within GTI that allows for the management and the full control of the bulk goods that we ship around the world. Everything from a large purchase order that is being placed by a purchaser here at corporate for a vendor to fulfill, all the way to individual shipments and inter-warehouse transfers, where we are tracking the functionality of sending several different SKUs from one warehouse to another. So it all lives within the TMS, or the Transportation Management System. And I have been doing a lot of trainings with all the various teams that are involved. And this is a continuation of that training. I know that even though I have done individual trainings with many people, that people will still have questions as they begin to use it. And I'm hoping that these videos will be used as a resource to be able to find out answers, and that you can feel empowered to get your own answers before coming to me or Nat to ask questions. Not that we don't want you to. In fact, if you have a question, we would much rather have you stop and find out the answer than assume that you know what the answer is. And so we are always available, that is myself and Nat, to answer any questions that you have regarding the TMS. But I hope that these videos will help as well. And I'm going to break out these videos into 5 different parts because there are 5 different pages to the TMS. And I want to be able to, I don't want to have a 30-minute long video, and I don't think many people will watch a 30-minute long video, so I'm going to break it out into the various roles of the TMS. A couple things that I want to stress about the TMS is that it's a new program, it's a new system that several different teams are adopting, and it needs to be a shared system amongst 4 different teams. And those teams are the purchasing team, the transportation team, the inventory team, and the receiving team that is at each distribution center. So amongst those 4 teams, a lot of information is being put in and kept and viewed and manipulated in the TMS. And it is important that all 4 teams know their respective roles in the TMS. But it's also important to realize that we're all learning it together, and that no one has really used it before. So everything is new for everyone, and it is important to be understanding to the fact that if one team doesn't do something that they should have done in the TMS, that we don't start accusing everyone of not doing their job. I think this is going to be a period of learning for a little while, and it should be also a period of understanding. So let's be patient. Let's try to learn our roles. Let's ask a lot of questions, and there's nothing wrong with making a mistake, but also learning from that. So that also being said, the TMS is new and it's being implemented for the first time, which means there are bound to be a number of bugs or a number of things that maybe don't quite work the way they're supposed to, or you might notice that something isn't quite right, or you might stumble upon a situation where something isn't working at all. And that is actually to be expected, just because this is the first time the TMS is seeing any type of use in real life, and those things are bound to just come up. And it is important that all of the teams are patient with the logistics team and the development of the TMS. If you come across any of those situations, please reach out to myself or Nat and just be clear on what the situation was. Take screenshots if you need to, and just explain what went wrong. If you feel that it is a development issue, um, if the site lacks functionality for whatever reason, or if something is supposed to be working and it is not working. Those are issues to bring up to myself and Nat, and we will get those addressed as quickly as we can. So it's important that there is understanding that those things are probably going to happen. Um, Also, it is important to understand that the TMS as it is can probably be improved, and everyone may have some ideas on how it can be improved to make your life and your job easier. And Nat and I are also very curious to hear what those suggestions are. And you would funnel all of those suggestions through me or through Nat. Um, and if they seem like great suggestions, we will definitely look to implement those into the TMS so that things can run easier for all of you because this is your job and you are going to be living in the TMS to a certain extent. So, with those things being said, let's go ahead and jump right in. Everyone should have access to the TMS dropdown, and then there are 5 different pages to the TMS. If you are having a problem viewing any of these pages, please contact me. My name is Travis Moulton, by the way, um, and I can get those addressed and I can get you the right permissions if that is what is needed. And so I'm going to break out each video into each page. So this video is going to deal with the add order page. Now this add order page is where a purchaser will go to create a purchase order. It will be very unlikely, highly unlikely that anyone outside of the purchasing department or the purchasing team will need to view this page. There should be no reason for a person in the receiving team in Lehigh to try and create a purchase order, or anyone in the Mexico distribution center, or even someone on transportation shouldn't really be coming in here to make a purchase order. It should just be the purchasing team. And so feel free to continue watching if you're not a member of the purchasing team, but just understand that most of this, if not all of this, will always be done by a member of the purchasing team. So we're going to go ahead and click Add Order. And here we are asked to choose between 2 things. Do you want to create a purchase order or a warehouse transfer? 99% of the time, people on this page will select purchase order. There are some limited situations where a warehouse transfer can be selected. Those situations could include when we want to ship something from a distribution center to a unique event, like an Empower You. Let's say there's an Empower You going on in Spain, and we want to be able to transfer product from Lehigh to an Empower You or whatever. There could be some very limited use of this warehouse transfer selection, but for the most part, it's always going to be let's create a purchase order, which we're going to select now. So I'm going to hit submit. I failed to mention that we are in a QA environment, so everything that we make and everything that we view is fake. Please don't be alarmed if we're looking at something and you think it's real, because it's not. Also, since most people do not have access to this, if you're trying to follow along on your computer, you're just going to see different data than what you're going to see on your computer, because your computer is is on the live production site, and this is simply a QA environment for us to play around with and test things. So don't be alarmed if it doesn't match up with what you are seeing. The first thing that we need to do is establish what the purchase order number is. And this number should be the same number as what NetSuite has. However, I don't have access to a realistic NetSuite number at the moment. So I'm just going to do fake PO 123. And obviously that is a totally fake purchase order number. Next thing we need to do is select the ship from location. And since this is fake, I am just going to select one random one, which is Identipack. And as you can see, all the information is preloaded, which is very nice. You don't have to type it out every single time. If there happens to be a change in the contact information, let's say Dora Guerrero doesn't even work there anymore, and this phone number is not valid, and of course the email is not valid as well, you would go to the autofill addresses page and you would update that information. Next thing we need to do is select the ship to location. This is where the purchase order is going to be shipped to. And for simplicity's sake, I am going to select the Lehigh warehouse. As you can see, all of the warehouses are here. Purchase orders are pretty much always going to be coming from a vendor and shipping to a warehouse. And in this case, I'm going to select Lehigh. And all of that information auto-populates as well. And once again, if it changes, please go into the TMS, go to autofill addresses and change that. I just want to point out that we have certain buttons up here, such as save temporary purchase order, create new open purchase order, and cancel and delete. So those handy buttons are up there at the top as well. Currently, our purchase order is in a status of open. We have just barely opened it. Until we release it, it will sit in an open status. The next thing we need to do is figure out what SKU we are creating a purchase order for. I really like this search feature that this has. You can simply just start typing the product description and it will pull up all the products that match that, and you can select the one you want. Or you can start typing the SKU and it will start narrowing the search criteria down depending on how the SKU is starting to look. So I'm just going to type in 4D and select it. Now, purchase orders are typically large amounts of product. Excuse me. So we're going to make up a large number, such as 50,000, and we're going to add it to the order. As you can see here, additional data pops up about that SKU, such as a Schedule B number, a customs value. If it has not been loaded, it will show a question mark, and it is up to the transportation team or the inventory team to load in all of this information. This is just accessory information. It's not necessarily, doesn't necessarily have to be in there unless it is deemed to be necessary. And that is a call for either inventory or transportation to make. Yeah, something interesting to point out is that it will pull up anything in the TMS that is already in transit or in any other state. So that here we can see that there are 10,000 that are already in transit on some shipment. And if we expand that, we will see the shipment number with a link to go to that shipment. And there's a date associated, which is right now a fake date, obviously, December 31st, 1969. But in live production, it would show a live date. So that explains that page. As you can see, we did click add item to order. So down here is our line item, the Moodstruck 4D fiber lash for 50,000 requested quantity. Currently, GTI does not handle lot numbers, so anytime you see a lot field, it will be blank, and that is fine. Here we have an edit button. Let's say we actually were supposed to put 5,500. We can edit it and then save it, or we can delete it, or up here we can go ahead and cancel and delete if that is what we desire to have happen. So our next criteria is choosing a service. This is the service that we want the vendor to use to ship the product to our destination, which is in this case Lehigh. So we're just going to go ahead and select ground. This is a list of all of the typical services that we use currently. And then as you can see here, there are a couple more selections that have to do with dates, such as the vendor commit date. This is the date, again, the purchaser is going to put this in. This is the date we expect the vendor to commit to have the product available and ready to ship. And let's say we expect them to have it by Thursday the 20th. So the purchaser will go ahead and put that date in. And then this is the expected ship date. One thing to point out are these little question mark icons. They help you with little pop-up tips. This explains that the expected ship date is the date the product is expected to ship from the vendor. So we expect the vendor to have it done by the 20th. We also want it to be shipped out on the 20th. And that may not always be the same. For instance, maybe the vendor has it done by the 20th, but for whatever reason, it won't ship out till Monday the 24th. This field is an ERP sync field, and our pop-up here says this is the date the transaction was updated in NetSuite. This is of particular importance to certain members of the inventory team. They will come in and fill out this date as they are able to get it updated in NetSuite. This is also of particular importance to the receiving teams at the distribution centers. I know that they are often not able to progress with a certain shipment until the ERP sync has been done. So if I am a purchaser, I am going to leave that field blank because the purchasers are not the ones that update it in NetSuite. It is a member of the inventory team. And this goes back to what I said in the beginning of the video. This is a shared system between many teams. And so it's okay if a purchaser leaves that blank. A member of inventory just needs to know that they need to get on and set that field at some point whenever they are able to. So if I were doing a realistic PO, I would leave that blank because I would be a purchaser filling this out. However, we're going to pretend that I am now a member of the inventory team just to show you how it works. And I have updated it in NetSuite, and let's pretend that that happened on the 12th. So I'm going to select that field. Now, the purchaser is making this purchase order, correct? It is for 55,040 fiber lashes. Most likely, the purchaser is going to have a certain amount of notes that they want to put in. And we have established that the member of the purchasing team will outline the various shipments that need to be created off of this purchase order. So a typical note on a typical PO would look something like this. It would say Lehigh. Okay, it would probably start off with shipments. And my enter button is not working for some reason, so that's cool. And I don't know why. Okay, so this is a typical example of what a note would look like from the purchaser. They can specify what the breakdown of the shipment should look like for this large purchase order of 55,000 fiber lashes. So it would look something like this. They would say shipments, and it would say Lehigh, 35,000, Mexico, 10,000, and New Jersey could be another 10,000. Something like that. Obviously, these are very rounded numbers, very perfect numbers, but it could be, 3.5, 3.52, or whatever. And that is kind of outlining for the transportation team how the shipment should be broken out. Now, we also have the option of adding any additional fields. And this could be something such as a planning note, like, I don't know, any type of label basically that you want to attach to the shipment, such as this is Black Friday, Cyber Monday product. And then if I added that, I could search by the label Black Friday, Cyber Monday when we get to the other pages where we search for purchase orders and shipments. And I can add as many as I want, depending on what type of purchase order or shipment it is, and depending on whether I feel like it needs to have a label. Now, it is up to all of the different teams to establish some sort of standards on labels, because if I'm over here making a certain type of label that no one knows about, then chances are it's not going to be very effective, because no one will be able to search by that label because they don't know it exists. So I think it's important for purchasers and transportation and inventory and receiving to get on the same page about what types of labels that they would like to have and search by. So let's pretend that that's the only label or planning note that I want to create. At this point, I can save it as a temporary purchase order. And that basically means I'm saving this because I want to come back later and update some stuff. And I'm not ready to make this final. If that's the case, I would click Save Temporary Purchase Order. And at that point, it would be saved as temporary. Most likely, I'm going to decide that I am done, and I'm going to create a new open purchase order. Otherwise, if I totally messed up and I just need to throw it in the trash, then I can cancel and delete it, and it will cancel and delete. Let's go ahead and create the new open purchase order. But before I do that, I just want to point out once more that currently the status of the purchase order is in open status. That is the status that it will always go into when a new purchase order is being created. So let's go ahead and say create new open purchase order. We will get a message up here saying that the data for purchase order fake PO123 was updated successfully. And as we can see here, the status has still remained in an open status. That is because we have yet to save and release it. So at this point, the page has reloaded. It's basically showing the same exact information that we saw on the last page. And you do have one more opportunity to edit anything before you decide to save and release it. Now, when you click Save and Release, the status will change to Release. And at that point, that is the queue for the purchasing team, who will be looking for any purchase orders that are in a status of release. That is a queue for them to start making the shipments. So if I am a purchaser, it's still my job to make sure that it is all good. and it is my job to save and release the purchase order, which I'm going to do right now. There is a message stating that the status has been set to released. As you can see here, it has been changed to released. Again, the page reloads. It's all of the same information. You can still edit it, the page, but at this point, it is a purchase order that has been released. And to explain further how that is useful information to know, we can jump over to the View Purchase Orders page, where we will see all of the purchase orders that have been loaded in. There's a lot of blank stuff because, again, this is fake information, but our purchase order is here at the top, and we can see the status. It is in released, and if I am the transportation team and I see a new purchase order entered in that is in a status of released, I am going to go ahead and click this View Shipments button right here so that I can get into it, and we're back where we started on this page that shows all of that information that I have already explained. At this point, responsibility transfers over from the purchasing team to the transportation team. Purchasing really doesn't need to do anything else with this purchase order as far as altering the information. It was their job to make it. It was their job to set these dates, and it was their job to enter in these shipment notes. And now we're going to pretend that I am a member of the transportation team. I've noticed that there's a purchase order that is in a status of released, and I want to jump in and create shipments off of it. It's the transportation's team to make the shipments. So I pull this up and I say, okay, we've got our shipment notes here. Easy enough. I can go ahead and make shipments, and I need to make 3 partial shipments. The create full shipment is a functionality where the entire quantity of the purchase order is going onto one single shipment. That would mean that all 55,040 fiber lashes are going to Lehigh. There's no other shipments, there's no other break-offs as far as quantity, there's no other destinations. As we can see here, there are 3 other destinations for this shipment. So what I'm going to do, if I am a member of transportation, I'm going to go ahead and click Create Partial Shipment. And if I scroll down, I will see that I have the ability to make a partial shipment. And reading the notes here, I can see that Lehigh is getting 35,000 of it. So I'm going to put 35,000 in as a partial quantity, ship to Lehigh. It's a Moonstruck 4D, and I'm going to create that shipment. Now that shipment has been created. It has a shipment ID. I can click on it and go into it and see the information on that shipment, but I have 2 more partial shipments I need to create. So again, create partial shipment, expand the notes out a little bit so that I can see it all. Next one is going to Mexico, which is Estafeta, and they're going to get 10,000. Create shipment. And then I need to create the 3rd and final partial shipment. Expand the notes. Apologize that they collapse every time. This one is going to New Jersey, so we'll select the New Jersey warehouse. And GTI already knows that there's only 10,000 left, and that makes our 3rd and final shipment, and we will create that. So now we have completely made all of these shipments for this PO, and again, that's a transportation job. At that point, these shipments have been made. They are set to a status of in transit. They immediately go into that status. Sorry, my throat is very dry. They immediately go into a status of in transit as soon as they are made. If we desire to click into any of them, we can. But I am going to cut off the video at this point because we have done everything that needs to be done from the add order perspective. There's nothing else that needs to be done on this page. I've walked you through all of the steps for this page, and it's already kind of a long video. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the video here. In the next video, we will begin talking about inter-warehouse transfers and how those play into the TMS.